Welcome to the newest episode of Beatin' and Bangin'. I'm your host, Kyle Dalton. Well, after having last Sunday off, I hope you're as ready as I am to get back into the swing of things and recap the weekend at Talladega. We've got some interesting items from the weekend, including Kyle Busch once again feeling he's not heard, Denny Hamlin throwing shade at NASCAR officiating, a couple of incidents with a cameraman, a Rodney Childress story that has nothing to do with his unexpected departure from Spire Motorsports, an Xfinity Series race that ended with a totally dejected Jeb Burton, and of course yesterday's Cup Series race, which was calm by Dega standards but did include some emotional radio chatter and a couple of disqualifications. However, before we get to that, let's go back to Saturday morning's media availabilities. There were a couple of interviews that got my attention. The first was with Kyle Busch, and I thought it was noteworthy because I'm noticing a pattern with the two-time champion, which is he is speaking out about NASCAR refusing to take his advice. Take a listen to what he had to say when asked about the Gen 7 car's performance and feel at super speedways like Talladega.
It drives okay ever since they came up with the rear end rules that, keep the tires on the racetrack and the teams aren't going crazy on different setup things to try to get the back of the car down. It seems to drive fine. It's just the cadence of the race isn't very good. That's not very fun. It's really hard to get runs or any sort of separation, especially with the fuel savings and all that sort of stuff. Shorter time on pit road is how you pass guys. That's no fun. So there's definitely an issue in that. I've made my suggestions, and in one ear, out the other.
In one ear and out the other. He said something similar to me at COTA in March about how they don't ask him to be on any of the many committees designed to improve the sport. I'm going to follow up with him this weekend at Fort Worth. The other interview was with Denny Hamlin, and he was asked about last week's announcement of the promoter's caution at the All-Star race and how a yellow can be put out at random.
What do you think of Marcus Smith being able to throw a caution during the second half of the All-Star race?
I don't know how it's much different than what we already have, truthfully.
Old DH spitting facts. Moving on to another item that came from drivers meeting with reporters, and it was Justin Haley talking about the Rodney Childress news from earlier in the week and the veteran crew chief's departure from Spire being a, quote, unexpected change and not something you ever want to do in the middle of a season. Interestingly, during Cup Series qualifying on Saturday on Amazon Prime, Childress' name came up again, but in a dramatically different context, when talking about how cars from the same organization can have different times. Take a listen.
Well, now, you worked for a four-car team. Both of you were on a four-car team where you had crew chiefs that did not enjoy sharing a lot of that information with each other.
Well, there was three of us that always wondered where the hell the speed was at the other.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Rodney, boy, he...
Yeah, well... Thanks, Mike.
Man, I didn't have Mike Joy calling out Rodney Childress on my bingo card. There were several other items from qualifying that I wanted to mention, and one of them was with Ty Gibbs. The Joe Gibbs racing driver was the lone Toyota inside the top 10 for that first round of qualifying. As the final few cars made their trips around the superspeedway, the number 54 was in the 10th and final spot to advance to the second round. After Denny Hamlin made his lap around the track, the cameras shifted to Gibbs in his team's area, and the 22-year-old provided a surprising reaction. Take a look.
And the Gibbs cars right now all in one cluster with Hamlin 13th, just behind Gibbs and Bell and just ahead of Briscoe.
That's amazing. 6 100s.
What do you want?
What do we want? A reaction.
That's right.
For those of you who have followed my channel, you know this isn't the first time he shoved away a camera. He did the same thing in a much more abrupt and aggressive move last year at Watkins Glen, when a camera operator approached him inside his car before the race. And it happened again in 2022 in the Xfinity Series, coincidentally at Talladega, when he didn't like a camera showing him visiting with his grandfather and team owner, Joe Gibbs. Saturday's interaction was seemingly more playful, but I still find it really odd that he has a penchant for pushing away cameras. But I guess it's a thing now. Why do I say that? Because Richard Childress had an interesting interaction of his own with the cameraman later on in the broadcast. It occurred when he was visiting with former driver Dave Marcus on pit road, and cameras caught the exchange. Of course, as they're showing the conversation, Mike Joy is talking about it. And here's what happened. Pay attention specifically to what Childress says.
On the left, who drove the K&K Dodge, then drove his own equipment, Richard Childress. ran up front here at Talladega driving his own number 3s. Dave always drove wearing wingtip shoes. He said they helped protected his feet.
Did you hear that? Hit him in the balls. Now, you can't hear the rest of what the 79-year-old had to say immediately after that, but that's not really important, simply because what we did hear him say lines up with the move he made with his left hand just moments before saying it. Here it is again.
On the left, who drove the K&K Dodge, then drove his own equipment, Richard Childress, ran up front here at Talladega driving his own number 3s.
I watch this and I think to myself, what, are we 15 years old and in the high school locker room again? Never in a million years would I think to do something like that. Maybe it's just me, but I find it highly unprofessional that a cameraman is doing his work and he's just showing what the broadcast is describing and then gets a tap, hit, whatever you want to call it, to that part of his body. Would Childress do the same thing if it was a woman? Just a really bizarre decision, but again, this is also the same guy that, according to Denny Hamlin, door slammed a JGR rental car during the police escort outside of Homestead last month. Moving on to the Xfinity Series race, and it was quiet in those first two stages. How quiet? Not a single caution for cause. I was listening to the radio of Catherine Legg and the number 32 car was running well. In that third and final stage, she had moved inside the top 15 with 13 laps to go when Eric Almirola didn't realize he wasn't clear and cut across the nose of her car and caused a crash. The end of the race also involved a crash, this one much nastier, with Connor Zilisch violently slamming into the inside wall. All I could think when watching the replay was, thank God for safer barriers. But the post-race interview on the Motor Racing Network with Zilich's best friend Jesse Love, who started that accident, was eyebrow-raising for sure. Listen to this.
I'm pretty sure I wrecked my best friend, so gonna owe him an apology. I don't know if I kind of pulled out late or if he made a late block. He'll probably tell me I pulled out late, and I'll probably tell him he made a late block. But yeah, I just got to see the replay, and then I'll kind of be able to know. I'm really proud of our team, so I'm gonna look at this replay and see what I did wrong here. But
yeah, we're watching the replay right now. Jesse loves seeing it for the first time.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I fucking wrecked him. He all right? Is he all right, Connor?
Yeah, he was talking with the safety crew. We know that much.
Well, he's not dead, so that's good.
A surprisingly grim choice of words. Not sure if you saw Jeb Burton get emotional and start crying in his post-race interview on the CW. Here's what he had to say over his team radio immediately after NASCAR officials handed down the decision.
There's no fucking way. Yep. Nice job. Just remember what we talked about. Sorry, man. Fuck!
Nothing to hold your head down about. Still a good day.
You sure, man? I swear we look in front of.
So close. And now let's move on to Sunday. And not the race just yet, but a couple of things that happened before during the pre-race show. One of them was an interview with Ryan Blaney that I had to show because it showed him and Bubba Wallace attending a UFL game on Friday night, and both of them attempting a 20-yard field goal. As you can see, Blaney nailed his. Wallace, on the other hand, didn't come close. I thought it was really funny how the Penske driver said their respective performances confirmed who was the athlete. Funny stuff. There was another more serious moment that I have to talk about from before the race, and that was Artie Kempner joining the Fox crew. For those of you who don't know Artie, he's been the director of Fox's NASCAR coverage since it started in 2001. Yeah, 25 years. He's moving over to ESPN to guide the network's Monday Night Football coverage. Sunday's race was his last as the director. I'm not going to say how I feel about it. You already know that. But take a look at what a couple of fans had to say about it on X. Good riddance, Artie, with the attached celebratory champagne. Good blanking riddance, said another. Look at the difference between the IndyCar broadcast and the NASCAR ones. Guarantee you our coverage cannot get worse with this clown leaving. I couldn't have said it any better. Unfortunately, there's more Fox piss-poor coverage to talk about, but that's coming up in a few minutes discussing the end of the race. Now, let's talk about the start of Sunday's Cup Series race. And immediately, one thing jumped out at me. In addition to there being some big movers in those first few laps, my TV totally went wonky. I'm talking next level wonky. It alternated between a blue screen of death and this. And it wasn't for a few seconds, we're talking minutes. I'm not going to lie, I have to admit I thought, Is this Artie messing with us one final time? Thankfully, I relied on the Max in-car cameras, which I'm happy to report after being silent at Bristol, once again featured team radio. They also featured this unexpected bird hit in Josh Berry's car on lap 18. That first stage will also be known for a bizarre incident that happened going down pit road that took out a couple of the prohibitive favorites in Brad Keselowski and Ryan Blaney. Kyle Busch was also involved. It was hard to identify who or what caused the crash, but it was significant because of those who were affected. And then on the subsequent restart with 9 laps to go in the first stage, Denny Hamlin appeared to make a bad push on his JGR teammate Christopher Bell, which got the number 20 car sideways, where it took out the number 17 of Chris Buescher, and both cars slid helplessly for big impacts into the inside wall. Take a listen to Buescher's radio moments after it happened.
Just give us an update. We can see down below the motorhomes how that is.
That's a big jump. That fucking hurt, dumbasses.
Sounds so painful. But the number 17 crew wasn't done. Buescher's crew chief Scott Graves took to social media a short time later and took aim at the number 11 driver. Quote, "This team worked so hard every week, had our driver in position for the end of stage 1, and the guys that would consider themselves some of the best drivers in the world can't even get through a restart. I see why you have an insurance sponsor, Denny Hamlin. Can I file a claim?" Shots fired. Unbelievably, and we didn't know this at the time, that would be the last caution for cause for the remainder of the race. Yeah, the track known for the big one, which included a record 28 cars involved in a crash in last fall's race, wouldn't have another incident. Larson won the stage and then proceeded to get a speeding penalty on pit road. Here's what he had to say about it.
Speeding penalty on us, section 13, so we will top off with 1 to go.
Where is that? Because I definitely didn't go over anywhere on my end. I mean, obviously I did, but as far as lights go, I was never over.
Interestingly, Larson had company in that second stage when his HMS teammate, Chase Elliott, also got nabbed for speeding. Sticking with the teammate theme, there were fireworks at the conclusion of that second stage when Joey Logano was absolutely livid that his Penske teammate Austin Cindric didn't help push him in the end in an attempt to pass Bubba Wallace for the stage win. When I say livid, I mean it. Take a listen to this.
Bottom of 3.
Way to go, Austin. Way to go, you dumb fuck. Way to fucking go. What a stupid shit. God, he just gave it to him. Gave a Toyota stage win. Nice job. Way to go. A dumbass.
I'll have more on this in a bit, which takes us to the third and final stage. As I already mentioned, there weren't any late cautions or drama. There were, however, plenty of commercials. And we're talking really untimely ones, like with 9 laps to go and the race in the balance. While I've been relatively quiet when it comes to complaining about commercials, because I know it's part of the business, these commercials at the end were absolutely disastrous. And I think I was even more upset about them after I heard Alex Bowman's post-race interview. What do I mean? Take a listen to what he had to say.
Yeah, they're at the end, just the 24 kind of zig left down the backstretch as I got to him, and that broke us apart and kind of let the 60 get up and take control of the race from there. So I hate that for everybody at HMS. I thought we were sitting in a good spot, and unfortunately it just didn't work out. What
Bowman was talking about happened in that final commercial break. When the broadcast went to side-by-side coverage, Austin Cindric was on the inside of row 1 with Larson right behind him. Byron ran in the front row on the outside with Bowman right behind him. When the cars crossed the start-finish line with 7 to go, the broadcast was still in commercial and the front 4 positions remained unchanged. However, on that next lap around the 2.66-mile track, there was a rearranging of positions, but fans at home didn't see it. Instead, they watched an Xfinity commercial on one side and the in-car camera of the Xfinity-sponsored car of Tyler Reddick, which was mired in the back of the pack, on the other. There was no way to see what happened up front. When the Fox broadcast returned to full screen with 5 laps to go, yes, 4 laps of commercials in the final 10 laps of the race, Mike Joy announced that Ryan Preece, who had been running on the inside of the third row going into the commercial, had unexpectedly moved up to the outside of the first row. But no one had any idea how it happened. Thanks to Bowman's remarks, we at least know Byron zigged and broke up the HMS cars and affected their chances at possibly winning the race. I was okay to see Preece running up front, and wouldn't have minded seeing him get his first Cup win after he's been battered and bruised at superspeedways in the recent past. But it wasn't meant to be, and Austin Cindric, who has been good on these tracks, won his third Cup race and locked himself into the playoffs. Who had that on their bingo card, that Austin Cindric and Josh Berry would be the first two drivers from the Penske group to be in the postseason? After the race, Joey Logano gave an interview to Fox, and he was quite measured and calm. But they didn't ask him about the end of Stage 2. They did ask that, however, on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. Listen to his exchange with Lee Spencer, and you totally get a sense that he was not happy with the day, and particularly what happened with his teammate and the eventual race winner.
Or was it all track dependent as far as aero?
Cars don't pass each other. They just don't. That's why everything's about pit cycles, because you can't make a move. I don't know. Being good at it doesn't matter. It's just all about how good you are on pit road. That's all that matters.
You were pretty hot at the end of the second stage. The Penske teams historically have worked so well together. Are you going to have a discussion with Austin Cindric this week?
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to explain on that?
No, it's between me and him.
Logano wasn't happy then. I can only imagine how unhappy he was to learn that his first top 5 of the season was no more, after both he and Priest were disqualified for violations on their spoilers. And one final thing that happened after the race on X. Baseball Hall of Famer Chipper Jones unexpectedly shared his thoughts on Joey Logano's rant. Congrats to Austin Cindric on his Talladega win. Good teammates are hard to come by, boss. Remember that one of yours MF'd you on national TV, when in all actuality you did everything possible to keep from wrecking him. Hate to be deuces in the team meeting on Monday. Some people are hooray for our team as long as I'm the star, as every team has them. Hendrick, RCR, JGR, Penske, etc. Sometimes karma is glorious. Enjoy this one. In case anyone is confused, let me be clear. Joey Logano. Sounds like both HMS and Penske will have some interesting competition meetings this week. All of it is going to result in some fun questions for me this week at Texas Motor Speedway. I cannot wait. Plus, for you Frankie Muniz fans, I'll be following him around on Friday and giving you a behind-the-scenes look. Kind of a day in the life of type of video, including our regular race recap. I'm really looking forward to that and the race weekend up in Fort Worth. All right, guys, that's a wrap on today's episode. We covered a lot. I want to hear what you thought about it. Let's start with Kyle Busch feeling slighted and not being included for his opinion. Genuinely curious, why do you think that is? He's obviously a future Hall of Famer. Why do you think NASCAR doesn't want to hear what he has to say? As for qualifying, I'm curious to hear what you guys think about Ty Gibbs and his penchant for pushing away the camera. And what did you think of Richard Childress' move? As for yesterday, first, share with me what you think with Artie Kempner no longer part of the Fox team. Do you think the broadcast will improve right away? And what about Sunday's race that included only 2 cautions due to incidents? I know that a lot of fans like the crashes, which can certainly add to the drama. But honestly, I enjoyed the fact that it wasn't a demolition derby and we had a long green flag run to the finish. A nice change of pace. Lastly, what did you think about the teammate comments? First, Joey Logano going ballistic on Austin Cindric, and what Alex Bowman had to say about William Byron. Interesting discussions to be had at HMS and Penske headquarters this week. Thanks again for checking out the latest video and supporting the channel. I really, really appreciate it and hope you have a great rest of your day.